They thought it was nothing. A faded white scar on the left arm of a janitor who pushed mop buckets more than she pushed boundaries. At one of the most elite U.S. military bases where rank spoke loud and egos walked tall, a small mark was easy to laugh at. They didn't know what the scar represented. They didn't know who it had saved. They didn't know Staff Sergeant Riley Hayes. What happens when a Navy SEAL commander sees that scar and stops dead in his tracks? When a room built on hierarchy watches a legend get saluted first? This is the day Fort Braxton stopped laughing at a white scar and started listening to the woman who carried it. Before we dive in, which city are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. And if you love stories about hidden warriors, hit subscribe and like so you don't miss the next mission. Fort Braxton rose from the Carolina Pines like a fortress of American military might. By 0600 hours, the sun barely cresting the tree line, the base already pulsed with life. Helicopter rotors chopped the air, boots pounded asphalt in formation, drill sergeants barked orders that cracked across the compound like whips. Everything breathed discipline and power. Staff Sergeant Riley Hayes' facilities maintenance moved through that controlled chaos like a shadow. Olive drab uniform, hair pulled tight under her cap, and a janitor's cart that followed her like a faithful dog. She cleaned corridors, emptied trash, mopped floors. She never spoke unless spoken to, never made eye contact, never drew attention. The only thing about her that caught eyes, when anyone bothered to look, was the white scar on her left forearm, about 3 inches long. Like a pale lightning bolt frozen in flesh, thin but deep, old but unforgotten. "What you think happened?" said Corporal Davis at the coffee line, nudging his buddy. "Kitchen accident. Maybe a cat scratch." The buddy snorted. Princess Sparkles got claws. The laughter rolled around her like surf, and she moved through it as if born for the current. Silence had been her language for a long time. The scar on Riley's left arm told a story no one was cleared to hear. 4 years ago, Afghanistan. A night so black the stars seemed swallowed by the void. A SEAL team moved through Taliban territory, extraction mission priority Alpha. American contractors had been taken, engineers building infrastructure in disputed territory. Lieutenant Riley "Ghost" Hayes was the only female operator in SEAL Team 6's most classified unit, sniper, close quarters combat specialist, and the calmest person in the stack when everything went sideways. The mission was planned perfectly, but no plan survives contact with an enemy that's been waiting. The details of that night were crystal clear in Riley's memory. 2:30 hours. Target building 3 stories. Taliban fortified. Intelligence reports said 15 to 20 enemy. Reality was 40 plus. Ghost 6. Clear the right flank. Ordered the team leader. Riley moved through shadows. Suppressed, MP5 in hand. Every step calculated. She neutralized the first 2 sentries silently. Then everything went wrong. Explosion on the first floor. Team leader screaming into comms. "Ambush! Ambush! All units withdraw!" But Riley refused the withdraw order. 3rd floor held 3 American hostages. She couldn't leave them. She went up those stairs alone. Every floor brought enemy contact. AK-47 rounds punched through walls. Grenades exploded. Riley moved faster, quieter, deadlier each time. By the time she reached the 3rd floor, blood ran down her arm. Shrapnel had gone bone deep, but she pushed through the pain. She found the hostages, 3 engineers, frozen with terror, but alive. "I'm U.S. Navy SEAL. I'm taking you home." The extraction was even bloodier. Riley carried 4 people to safety while wounded. She killed 12 enemy fighters, and that night, she officially had to die. The operation was successful but compromised. Riley's identity had been blown. Enemy networks had her face, her name, her family's location. Naval, Special Warfare, and CIA worked together to stage her death. Her family mourned. Her service record was sealed. Her identity buried so deep that even military intelligence databases showed no trace. The truth was more complex and infinitely more dangerous. Riley had been reborn as Staff Sergeant Riley Hayes, Facilities Maintenance, and assigned to Fort Braxton. Her real mission, deep cover security assessment while maintaining the perfect camouflage of invisibility. For 4 years, she'd lived this double life. Days spent cleaning floors, nights spent identifying security vulnerabilities that could kill thousands of America's finest warriors. No one knew who she really was. The scar was her only truth. Her honor, her courage, her sacrifice, all carried in that thin white line. At Fort Braxton, rank was everything. Officers commanded respect. NCOS held authority. Enlisted followed orders. Riley belonged to none of those worlds. Janitor, invisible, unimportant. "Hey, Riley!" called Sergeant Rodriguez down the hallway. "What's that scar? Cat get you?" His buddies started laughing. "Maybe she cut herself making dinner," said another. "Princess cuts." Riley stopped, her grip tightening on the mop handle. For just a moment, her eyes held that old coldness, the look she'd given enemy fighters in the dark. But then she caught herself, returned to the bland civilian demeanor that kept her alive. "Never answers," Rodriguez said. "Probably embarrassed." More laughter echoed off the walls. Riley's scar represented the night she'd saved 3 American contractors while taking shrapnel to the arm. But nobody would ever know. 4 years later, everything changed in an instant. At 14:30 hours, a black government SUV rolled through Fort Braxton's gates. Commander Nathan Shark Torres, SEAL Team 6, here for classified briefings. Riley was mopping the main corridor when he walked past. Routine acknowledgement, standard military courtesy. But Commander Torres's eyes locked onto the scar on Riley's forearm. He stopped dead. For long seconds, he stared at that thin white line. Then slowly, his eyes moved to Riley's face. Recognition hit him like a physical blow. "Go 6, he said quietly, using Riley's old operational call sign. The corridor went silent. Riley's hand tightened on the mop. 4 years of careful cover blown in an instant. "Commander," she replied, her voice steady despite everything crashing down around her. Torres stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. "Afghanistan extraction. You pulled 3 contractors out of hell." Riley nodded once. Brief. Confirming. Then Commander Torres did something that shattered every rule of military hierarchy. In a hallway full of enlisted personnel, in front of junior officers who outranked the woman he was addressing, the SEAL commander saluted first. The hallway erupted in confused murmurs. A commander saluting a janitor? What was happening? "Permission to speak freely," Torres said, his voice carrying now so everyone could hear. "Granted, sir." Torres turned to address the gathered personnel. "This woman," he announced, his voice cutting through every whisper, "is not what you think she is." The murmurs died. 4 years ago in Afghanistan, when a SEAL extraction went sideways and 3 American contractors were about to die, one operator stayed behind to get them out. That operator took enemy fire, enemy steel, and brought all 3 home alive. He gestured to Riley's scar. "That mark isn't from some kitchen accident. It's from the shrapnel of a Taliban fighter who died trying to stop her from completing the mission." Dead silence filled the corridor. "Staff Sergeant Hayes," Torres continued, "is Lieutenant Riley Ghost Hayes, one of the most decorated operators in naval special warfare history. Her death was reported to protect operational security. Her service record is classified beyond your clearance level. Sergeant Rodriguez, who had mocked her minutes earlier, looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "When you see that scar," Torres said, his eyes sweeping the crowd, "you remember that she stood where others fell. That mark represents American lives saved at the cost of her own blood." The transformation was immediate and total, but the real test came a week later. At 2:15 hours, alarms screamed. Perimeter breach on the north side. Radar systems malfunctioned. Security cameras went dark. Riley opened her eyes before the alarm even sounded. She hadn't heard this kind of silence in years. The wrong kind of silence. She grabbed her boots, M4 carbine, and ran to the door. The corridors were chaos. Young soldiers fumbled with rifles they'd never expected to fire in anger. Officers shouted into radios that only gave static. "Status report," Riley demanded, the authority in her voice making everyone turn. "Perimeter breach. Communications down. No visuals," said a young sergeant. Riley immediately analyzed the situation. This wasn't random, coordinated, professional. All teams fall back to main buildings. Abandon outer defense lines. "This is a swarm attack," she ordered. "Who are you two?" began a lieutenant. Commander Torres came running up. "Follow her orders." She knows this. The attackers were professionals. Black tactical gear, suppressed weapons, coordinated movement. Not terrorists, operators. Riley organized the defense, set checkpoint positions, established fire lines, arranged crossfire positions. "Nobody panic fires," she commanded. "Short, controlled bursts. Count your ammunition." First contact came at 2:30. Attackers breached the south gate. Riley was waiting. Her first shot dropped an attacker center mass. Her second caught another in the shoulder. The young soldiers followed her lead. "Left flank, 2 approaching," shouted a private. Riley changed position, calculated the angle, fired. 2 more targets down. The firefight lasted 45 minutes. Riley's defensive line held. The attackers were forced to withdraw. When dawn broke, Fort Braxton was secure. 12 attackers killed, 3 captured. American casualties, 3 wounded, 0 KIA. The next morning brought meetings with the base commander, Pentagon representatives, and Commander Torres. "Sergeant Hayes," said General Mitchell, "you saved this base." Riley shook her head. "The soldiers saved it. They fought." "You taught them how to fight," Torres interjected. The general looked at Riley's scar. "This woman," he said, raising his voice, "is not what you think. That mark isn't decoration. It's a marker of service paid in blood." Riley remained at Fort Braxton, but now her dual role was official. Maintenance by day, security assessment by night. The perfect combination of invisible and invaluable. The scar on her arm was no longer a source of mockery. It became a symbol of respect, a reminder that appearances could be deceiving, and that heroism didn't always wear rank on its sleeve. Young soldiers would ask about it occasionally, carefully, respectfully. Riley would simply smile and say, "Some marks tell stories. Some stories can't be told." But everyone understood the meaning now. On the wall of the base gym, someone had written in permanent marker, "Respect the scar." No one erased it, because Fort Braxton had learned that the quietest person in the room might be the one who saves it, that the most important battles were often fought by people whose true identities would remain forever classified, and that sometimes a 3-inch scar carried more honor than a chest full of medals. This is the untold story of Riley Hayes, the cleaning lady whose scar told a legend. Sometimes the smallest mark tells the biggest truth, and sometimes the most invisible person is the one who sees everything. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more Hidden Warrior stories. And drop a comment below. Tell us what city you're watching from around the world.